give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire. Ooh.
I'm here to address probably the most difficult aspect of the car business, and that's the inequity situation. When I would go to, the desk, and the desk would pencil me back, the ACV at 8,000 and the customer's payoff was 12, I panicked. And there were many years that I didn't know how to address the inequity situation effectively. Now I was told, you just tell the customer that the market's soft, or, that's the wrong color, or the vehicles that are going through the auction, the Odessa auto auctions, that particular model for that particular year with those particular miles is that figure. I was also told that, there are reconditioning costs, you need to put new rubber on pretty much a lot of the trades that come in, and Mr. Smith needs some new tread around his trade, and yeah, that's $800. That's a feasible number. I heard a close where, and I used it for a lot of years. Mr. Smith, you didn't pay down your loan as fast as the natural depreciation of the vehicle, of your trade. And yes, that is the case. But the impression that the customers get from those types of responses doesn't cover, in their mind, a $4,000 deficiency. They need a close with teeth, and they need a close that is real. And it's my opinion that, based on my experience, that most salespeople, I was part of most of those salespeople, wasn't properly armed with the facts of why Mr. and Mrs. Smith's trade isn't worth what the actual payoff was. What does that do in the dealership world when a salesperson, is stumbling over himself and he can't really come up with a really good reason to gain Mr. and Mrs. Smith's confidence to get in their wallet and pay that deficiency down? Get away from those kinds of weak, pat, going nowhere type of closes. Customers buy cars all day long, every day across the United States, with salespeople that cannot articulate exactly what is going on with the actual cash value versus their payoff. And they dig into their pocket, they pull out their wallet, and they let go of that money reluctantly. They just figure, hey, the last dealer told me I owed $4,000 more than what my car was worth. This guy's telling me the same thing, and quite frankly, Mrs. Smith, it's time to go. We're either gonna walk out the door, or we're gonna pay this $4,000 off. What do you want to do? And Mrs. Smith, she says, I'm tired of this. Mr. Smith says to Mrs. Smith, you know what? I'm tired too. Let's just take it on the chin. We can afford this $4,000. And they do that all across America. And the dealer, and the salesperson, and the sales manager are saying, hey, we got our number. Congratulations, Mrs. Smith. But the reality of the situation is when Mr. and Mrs. Smith reluctantly let go of $4,000, there inevitably will be a phone call from Honda, Toyota, Nissan manufacturing, and they're going to ask them about their experience in the dealership. And what is the impression of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, along with all the others that are not told exactly what is going on with the actual cash value versus their payoff. And it is reflected in the CSI score in that survey. Those manufacturers, they ask them, how was your experience? And they're quick to say that they felt that they were taken advantage of. How do you avoid that? Yeah, Mr. Smith, you didn't pay down your loan, as fast as the natural depreciation of the vehicle. You know what? That is the case, but does the customer really want to hear that? And do they believe that is what happened? When Kelly Blue Book said they were supposed to get $9,200, $9,500 for their trade. My suggestion is this. When you get the pencil from the desk, is to walk out with the tablet with bankrate.com opened up on the tablet with the numbers plugged in. And you say, Mr. Smith, these are the figures from the desk. And when you peel them off of the ceiling and say, Mr. Smith, look at this. You're $4,000 in equity. You owe $4,000 more than what your trade is worth. And I think I know the reason why. Would you like for me to share that with you? Well, of course Mr. Smith wants to know why. Yeah. Bankrate.com, we're not affiliated with them whatsoever. And this is a mortgage calculator. And just below that is an amortization schedule. On this mortgage calculator, what we've done is we've plugged in your numbers based on the anticipated numbers that you purchased that vehicle 3 years ago. You said you had good credit now. We've seen your credit. It's good. It wasn't good then. He tells you he had a good credit score then. Most people don't remember what interest they paid from 3 years ago. But we're gonna assume conservative numbers that you were paying 8%. If he was paying 10, let's say the dealer got him, got a point on the back end or two. So when you show Mr. Smith what the third party, not the dealer, this isn't what the dealer is saying. This is what a third party, bankrate.com, and you're showing him the tablet. It brings legitimacy to your circumstance. The third party showing Mr. Smith in hard numbers when you scroll down to 3 years later on the amortization schedule, the impact that the interest had on the vehicle loan. And what happens right then, at that moment? Mr. Smith forgot that you were that dirty car salesman trying to take advantage of the situation and trying to steal his trade. You weren't trying to take advantage of him. And what happens there, you have all these deals that are being done nationwide all the time. When a salesperson doesn't show the customer exactly what is happening, the ramifications of taxes, interest, and vehicle service agreements on that play a part of your actual cash value versus what the payoff is. Until that happens, the customer's thinking you're trying to take advantage of him. But once you show Mr. Smith the real ramifications of what is happening with that automobile loan, you have some credence and you have some real professionalism that you're demonstrating in this process, and therefore they will be less reluctant to come out of pocket and pay for that deficiency. It will be more agreeable, and they will pay that deficiency down. And on top of that, with CSI scores and how that affects the dealership allocation, affects money. Those are strong things that you must consider when making a presentation to Mr. and Mrs. Smith or your customers. And it gives you legitimacy where the guy down the street didn't give that information to the customer. And most importantly, what it does is it gives the salesperson an opportunity to sell more cars, and he or she will. just like I did when I started using those tables. I used the laminated. I didn't have the tablet is something new that I'm bringing to the table. You know, when you go get the customer's vehicle appraised, you know, you're gone for 10 minutes. You bring that pad out. You have some pre-selected videos about the particular vehicle that they're interested in. And there's training videos that Honda gives out, that Toyota, all the manufacturers give them out. And they're comparative studies that you can click on that and say, Mr. Smith, it's going to take about 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to go get your car appraised. You want some coffee? You want a Coke or something? No, you're good. Everything's good here. Just watch this. Click. And give them something to do. That 10 minutes seems like an hour to them. And when they're playing around with the gadget, a nice Samsung tablet, which they wish they had, or they probably do have. People love their gadgets. You give them something to do while you're over there doing your thing, getting the vehicle appraised. Takes their mind off of, gosh, I'm sitting in a car dealership and all that anxiety builds. What if he doesn't, give me what I want for my trade? What if the interest rate is so high and you give them something to do? While they're playing around with you, you're going to come back with the figures, and they've already had that in their hand. They've gotten used to having this, and they kind of liked it. It was a time killer. But at the same time, when they're watching those comparative videos against the other vehicle that they were considering, in those videos, typically they say, J.D. Power and Associates said. Well, isn't that the same thing that the salesperson just told the customer out on the demo ride and before the demo ride? And what that does is it also brings legitimacy and credence to your salesperson, the process. And since a third party, J.D. Power and Associates or Honda or whatever the video actually has in it, when your salesperson says the exact same thing that video said, because it's the training video, the customer's impression will be that, hey, that guy was telling me the truth. J.D. Power and Associates says Honda is the best car on the planet, or the Avalon's the best car on the planet, and my salesperson told me the same thing. It makes them feel like all of that information was legitimate, and it builds value in that vehicle. You're reiterating all of the PowerPoints that Honda Motor Company or Toyota or Nissan or whoever it is trying to build value. Those training videos are powerful. If you have a training video that a customer can watch on the vehicle selection that they're currently negotiating on, it will build value. Let's just say Mr. Smith likes the idea of showing the bankrate.com, and everything's good. He comes out of the pocket with the deficiencies ready to do it, but then you show him the figures on the new car that he's purchasing, and it's a new Accord, new $23,000 Accord, I believe, when I did the numbers, was $479. That's including taxes. I think it was $1,000 down. Well, Mr. Smith doesn't want to pay $479. This is a good time to switch to a lease. Most customers don't know what cap cost reduction is. Heck, most salespeople don't know what cap cost reduction is. I believe most salespeople don't know how to accurately discuss a lease with the customer. When I would discuss leases with the customer, I saw the value and I would go for it. And I'd say, Mr. Smith, you should consider a lease. You hadn't held a title in your hand in 10 years. What does that have to do with the price of tea in China? That's what Mr. Smith would say to me. And I would say to him, everything. You never pay off a vehicle. You trade your vehicles every 3 to 4 years. You still have a payoff, and you run into this inequity situation every time that you trade your vehicle in. How would you like it if you never had an inequity situation ever again? Was my spiel. And 100% of the time the customer would say, I drive too many miles for a lease. Yeah, I can't do the lease. You know what? And I folded every time until I stopped laying down on that particular objection that the customer had.